Hey guys, what's up? It's Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I want to talk to you today about video game guilty pleasures. You know the ones I'm talking about. The video games that in the eyes of many are absolute tash, but to us are just top notch. Off the top of my head, games like Deadly Premonition, that's one of my personal favourites, and in fact it actually appeared in a previous video that we did that was on 10 video games that were so awful that they're actually pretty awesome, and I thought to myself, why not rake that subject again? Get that sweet YouTube money going. Also because it's quite an interesting subject as well. So with this in mind, I'm Jules from WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 more video games so truly awful that they're actually pretty awesome. Or a slightly different variation on that title, one that I didn't mess up. Enjoy.
But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, dong.
Number 8, the Philips CDI Zelda games. Now the Zelda games for the Philips CDI are considered by many to be monumentally shit. The controls are abysmal, the storyline considered to be non-canon Ganon, and the animations straight out of the mind of the insane. But actually it's quite fun. And yet, there's something about them. There's some sort of self-aware charm that sees gamers keep seeking out this title time and again. It's one of the weirdest Zelda entries, and everyone involved seems to know how crap a project it is. The voice actors seem one line away from laughing their asses off, and everything feels so bootleg that it's actually alluring. Now, in reality, if you came up to me with a copy of the game and said, Jules, would you like to play this? I'd say no, I'd rather cut off my own feet. But as a gaming curio, I'd be reaching for the hacksaw. Number 7, Harvester. I'm not really sure how to describe Harvester. If I was to use layman terms, I'd say that it's a surreal horror point-and-click adventure. But if I was to create a noise based on my experiences with the game, it would be... What? You see, Harvester puts the surreal into this is a fucking surreal game by offering up terrible voice acting, puzzles developed by a madman, and scenes so disturbing that your therapist will be on speed dial the moment you finish playing this. Yet because of this strange nature of the game, it transcends what would be a dismal offering into something kind of brilliant. It's endlessly quotable, full of moments that scream what the hell is going on, and has gore in all the most unexpected places. Plus the wonkiness of the aesthetics being this sort of like Mortal Kombat live-action sprite thing. It's so disgusting, it's beautiful. I love it. Number 6, Night Trap. Now, by today's standards, Night Trap is about as edgy as a fucking soft marshmallow ball, but back in the day, it rubbed people up the wrong way. For the media, it was because of the scantily clad women and simulations of home invasions, and for those that played it, it was just because the game was a bit shit. Oh, was it? I would argue that Night Trap is actually really fun. I mean, yeah, it totally is like taking some fromage, dipping it in fondue, because yeah, it's fucking absolute cheese, but it encapsulates all of the weirdness and all of the crappiness of the 90s. And we love the 90s. Economic downturn. Kids with walk phones. What's not to love? This was the 90s. The bad style, the bad acting, and the laughable enemies create a situation perfect for a drunken gaming session with your mates. You'll laugh at the sheer awfulness of it all, but for that very same reason, get quite a lot out of this title. Number 5, Star Wars Kinect. Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, this game is absolute dogcock. What with the Kinect failing to register most arm movements, and when you're playing Rank or Rampage, you look like a deranged mental toddler. But at the same time, I'm Han Solo, I'm Han Solo. You tell me that wasn't fun. Number 4, Rogue Warrior. Mickey Rourke is such an odd man. Not simply content with looking like a potato that you forgot about in your cupboard for about 2 months, he's actually racked up quite a fair few impressive films under his belt in his time. But he's also racked up quite a few absolute stinkers, one of which is Rogue Warrior. Oh boy. Yes, going from pretty much the opposite end of the spectrum as the wrestler, here he voices Richard Marchenko, a real-life US Navy SEAL who hates terrorism as much as he loves racism, apparently. The game plays like the most absolute stock shooter you can find, but it's the incredibly non-PC and swear-fueled dialogue that makes this game so notorious. It's a wonder that Rourke was allowed to say some of the stuff that he does, and it's even weirder to listen to the rap that's included in the game, which is made up of the lines of dialogue. Trust me, it needs to be heard to be believed. Wow. Number 3, Driver 3. Now, Driver 3, or Driv 3 if you want to get Simon Miller about it, was not received well by critics and fans. And it's easy to see why. The graphics, when they weren't glitching to were about as flat as the gene pool in Gateshead. The gameplay was yawn-inducing for the most part, and the story was about as thin as the chances of me calling your mother back for a second date. There's my one per list. Ain't gonna happen, Sharon. However, there's something many game reviewers just ignored, that while the game mechanically wasn't outstanding, it was actually kind of fun. Sure, GTA had set the benchmark, but Driver 3 just slid under it and pissed about by itself. And it was also, despite not looking top tier, really impressive in the fact that it had 3 massive cities to explore. Driver 3 had so much against it, and in many ways is an unfinished mess. But that sort of heat bubbles over a cult following that means it's still discussed today. Mad. Number 2, Rumble Roses. Okay, now listen. Right? Listen. Yes, Rumble Roses has tits in it, but it's also a fairly decent wrestling game. Did I buy it just because of the subject matter? No, I did not. How dare you assume that? I'm a professional. I'm a gaming professional. And I've got the internet. Come on now. Come on. Now, on first glance, this is a game that you probably shouldn't tell your parents about. What with all the scantily clad women, the fact that the game lingers on them when they're on low health, and that the story mode seems to have come from the minds of the worst porn directors. But if you can get over this hammy acting and meat balloons, there's a surprisingly decent wrestling game underneath. And that's thanks in part to Ukes basically just taking their WWE game engine at the time and just slapping it in here, which means that while the concept is absolutely ridiculous, the execution is actually pretty awesome. And number 1, The Town with No Name. I can't describe this game. I honestly am struggling to put it into words what type of game The Town with No Name it is. Yet, in the sort of muddled mix of self-hatred, terrible jokes, and Ewan's pictures that I told him that I put him up on the fridge, there is a memory of joy when I think about this game. I think that despite it being utterly terrible, I love this game. Set in a weird Wild Wild West town, you play a fellow with no name going around trying to take down bandits and avoid bullets, both of which are made so hard by the game's awful controls and guides that cut out halfway f***ing through. The voice acting is beyond terrible as well, and as a result becomes pure comedy gold. However, the best part, hands down, is near the end. When basically this kid says, "Hey, come back, Shane," and the guy that you're playing as turns around from his train and shoots the kid. For no reason, just saying that his name isn't Shane. Brilliant, you have to play it. And there we go, those were 8 more video games just so terrible that they're actually kind of awesome. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, as well as if you've got any more that you'd like to add, because I might steal them for our future list. Reiki, as it says. But before you go, maybe you want to check out this other list that I've done on the 10 video games that kill you within the first 10 seconds. Or if that ain't your bag, then maybe you can swing by and check out this. It's a weekly show that I do on the wrestling channel, the 5 most insane things happening in wrestling right now. You can't go wrong. As always, I've been Jules, you've been awesome, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!